So in front of me here, I have another French knife that I got from knifesoffrance.com. This is a friction folder, which is new for me for the French knives anyway. Well, other than the Opinel. The Opinel is technically a friction folder, although it does have that collar lock. So, yeah. Um, and the Sword Peasant is the only other like friction folder that doesn't have a lock on it that I have experience with. Um, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I got the idea that I wanted a nice friction folder, and I knew that Knives of France he had a couple. So I went ahead and ordered one of these, and this is the Cognet or Cognet, probably Cognet or something like that. Although that doesn't sound French. Cognet, I don't know. That sounds almost Russian. So I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It's got a little, looks like a rabbit on it, maybe. I think it's a rabbit on the blade there. Um, and the handles here are cocobolo wood, which is awesome because cocobolo is, pretty standard wood in pocket knives and everything. For whatever reason, this blade is just loving fingerprints. I don't know what that's about. Um, but yeah, so there's going to be fingerprints on the blade throughout this video because for whatever reason, this blade just really loves fingerprints. I don't know what that's about. But the cocobolo here looks really good. It's got quite a polish on it. And it does appear to be, and I believe it is, one. Come on, phone. Focus. Focus on what I want you to focus on. You are not focusing on what I want you to focus on. You're focusing on the mat. Um, the Coca-Cola wood here appears to be one piece of wood. There doesn't appear to be any glue or anything holding this together. It just appears to be one piece of wood that they, I guess, kind of machine out here and fit a blade in and a pivot pin and then a stop pin. And like I said, this is a friction folder. It is a fairly tight friction folder, so I don't have to worry about this coming open in my pocket, which I like. And it does have a stop pin, so it stops the blade, but it doesn't have the large tang that like this Ford peasant knife has that you can like hold it with your hand closed. So you really are just relying on the action of cutting to keep the blade open. But as long as you're using it as a knife and not as something stupid like a pry tool or I don't know what else you'd be using it for, that you really need it to hold itself open any more than it does. Because, I mean, it's not going to go closed accidentally on your fingers because it is such a tight fitment on that blade. Like, you have to very purposefully be pulling this out to use it. So as long as you're using the knife correctly, it shouldn't be a problem. However, some people feel that they need a spring holding the blade open or need a lock holding the blade open. I figured I'd go ahead and try carrying a friction folder occasionally. Another thing that's interesting about this knife is the blade shape here. It's like, I don't even know how to describe this because I guess the closest description to this would be a Warncliffe. So maybe it's like a modified Warncliffe. Or a reverse Tanto, maybe. I'm going to call it a modified Warncliffe or a Warncliffe. And this should be made in carbon steel, which means it'll patina and all that. And the cool thing about this being cocobolo wood is the wood will really darken over time. Although right now it looks really pretty, so I don't know how much I want it to darken. But the knife, it appears to be made pretty well. There's no side-to-side play again, I think because of how well fit together the pivot is and how tight fit the blade is in there, which I like on a friction folder because you don't want it to accidentally come open in your pocket, which I think could become a problem with some of the Ford knives. The open L's won't do that, but maybe like a Ford might do that, depending on how loose you have the pivot, because those are adjustable. But I will say, the first like little bit of pull here is pretty easy, and then it gets much stiffer here, and the whole way to open. And then once you're open, like I said, it's not just going to accidentally close. Like I feel like you very purposefully have to close this. Like this isn't a knife that you like bump on something and it shuts on your fingers because there's no back spring. So you have to very purposefully open and close this knife, which is one thing that I definitely do like about it. It's a super simple little knife here. You just got a blade, carbon steel. I almost just dropped it on myself. That wouldn't have been good. Um, Blade, carbon steel, super easy shape to cut out and everything. Rather rectangular handle here. It is rounded a little bit to give you some comfort holding it. Feels pretty good in hand, I will say. Actually feels really good in hand. Handle's plenty big enough for your hand, obviously. Um, Pretty comfortable to hold, just because it's wood and everything. Wood handles you generally are pretty comfortable to hold. Not quite as comfortable as an open L because an open L is round, and it turns out your hand likes holding round things. That's why a lot of like handles and stuff are rounded. Um, so not quite as good as an open L, but really comfortable, I will say. Overall, here the blade is like a what is it like 3 inch, three-quarter inches, something like that, 3 and 3/4, something like that. Cutting edge, a little over 3.5. Whole knife overall is about 7, 8, about 8 1/4 inches open. And of course, that dimension doesn't really matter, but your closed length is about 4.5, it looks like. So you have a closed length of about 4.5. So this isn't a small knife, but it's also not gigantic, obviously. It's a good size for like a working knife, I will say. Generally speaking, a knife that you're going to carry uses your normal knife and everything. I like to have a blade length of around 3.5 inches. Um, for like a hard working pocket knife. That being said, I have certainly carried knives with smaller blades and everything. I still do sometimes carry a case peanut or, my 14 Great Eastern Cutlery or something. So you don't need a blade that long, but somewhere in there is where you want like a full size like working knife to be, kind of, I think. Um, but overall, I'm really impressed with the build quality of this knife. I really like I said a couple of times now, I really like the fact that it is, very not hard to open, but it has to be very deliberate to open and close this knife, which I like because it's not going to accidentally come open or accidentally close. If we want to look at the blade centering, it's actually pretty good, which is something that I wouldn't necessarily expect on a friction folder like this, but it is fairly down the middle there, I will say. So real happy with that. Maybe just a tick off to one side, but certainly well centered enough to not matter. So pretty cool little knife. I do plan on carrying this hopefully quite a bit. Just bumped my tripod there. I do plan on carrying this hopefully quite a bit. And once the blade patinas, it'll stop getting these weird greasy fingerprints. Whatever's going on there, that'll stop happening. But yeah, so another cool knife from Knives of France. If you guys want to check out this knife or any other French-made knife, go over there and check out his website, knivesoffrance.com. There's some, I think, hyphens in there. Go check him out on Instagram. He has a link to his page and everything. He has, different types of knives. He has stainless steel knives, carbon knives, and then he has like more fancy pocket knives and stuff. And I mean, he just seems to be a pretty cool dude. He likes to support the channel kind of loosely, I'll say, as in, he likes to share when I post a video and stuff. And I think he does watch my videos. And he sent me a really cool hoodie that says Knives of France on it, Fortunately, it's summer right now, so I haven't gotten to wear it yet. But I'm hoping that once it gets cooled off, I'm going to wear that hoodie quite a bit because it's a neat one. And I think he has T-shirts now on his website, T-shirts and hoodies, so that's cool. But anyway, that's gonna be the video on this Cognet friction folder here. I'm pretty happy with it. The blade is a really interesting shape, and I'm excited to carry it to see how the cocobolo ages and to see how I end up liking it over time. Uh, but like I said, that'll be it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a good day.